Let's talk about let's do a couple rapid fire questions here as we kind of predict what'll happen in this draft here. If I say over under 2.5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, Eli, what say you?
Over.
Over, Adam?
Over.
If I move that number to 3.5 QBs in the first round,
Over.
Under.
4 in the first. Okay. I will use the Saints pick at number 9 as the marker. When does Shador get drafted? Before or after Saints?
Before
After.
the Saints.
Before the Saints. You think someone takes him inside top 8? Adam, afterwards? Okay.
I trust
I wanna see-
NFL scouting departments to figure this one out.
Again,
The ownership might not,
Normally,
though, so-
normally I'd say yes, but in the quarterback position, usually that goes out the window.
The Giants literally just sent their entire franchise to go and meet with him again.
It's a smoke screen.
We don't have enough time for that. All right, because I got thoughts. I got thoughts on that, and boy, I don't want them to be true. Let's go. Over under 6.5 quarterbacks drafted in the first 2 rounds. Do 7 quarterbacks get drafted in the first 2? We've mentioned 7 of them so far today.
Under.
Okay, so
Yep.
you've got 4 in the first, but not more than 3 going in the second there. Okay.
I
The
got
thing
3
about
and 3.
quarterbacks is if they're not starters, then they just don't get drafted. The second round starters right now in the league are Geno, Will Levis, Jalen Hurts, and Derek Carr. Dak is a 4th round pick. Brock Purdy is a 7th round pick. Every other starter in the league was a 1st round pick. And then you look at the history of round 2 quarterbacks, and it is rough. So
and we know that Will Levis isn't going to be the starter come week 1 anyways. So
it really is first or bust, which is why once you hit that first round number, it doesn't go much higher than that historically in the league.
let's talk about the first round again. We've brought up Jalen Milroe on the show. All 3 of us like him. We all know how freakishly athletic the guy is. We also know how questionable that arm accuracy and consistency can be. He is invited to the Green Bay draft room. He is going to be at the first round of the draft in a suit, sitting there in the draft room with all the other projected first round talent. Normally, the NFL does not want a Will Levis situation for someone to be sitting there and then have to come back in day 2 or not even come back at all. We are shocked. I mean, I was shocked to see that he got the invite here. Does this mean that some team is actively campaigning, has basically told him that he is going to be a first round talent? Eli, does Jalen Milroe go in the first round?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And to who? Give me a bonus pick.
I think the Giants will trade back up to like pick 24, I think, or 23, right where the Packers and the Vikings are going, and go up for Jalen right there.
Okay. Adam.
Jalen to the Steelers.
At
First
21?
round. Yeah.
Okay, so he goes in the first round, and his seat in Green Bay at the draft is warranted. Let's do one more, and I want to give you guys both like a minute or so on this question. Which, if any, QB drafted outside of the top 3 rounds, or you know what, I'll use it in this way. Which QB have we not mentioned? Because we've mentioned quite a few of them that we expect to go in the first 2 to 3 rounds. Which QB that we have not mentioned has the best chance of being relevant in the NFL?
Eli?
I think Riley Leonard has the best chance to be relevant.
He certainly has the best hair in the NFL.
That he does.
He has a chance.
He is a leader. He's going to stick around the league for 12 to 14 years. And when we talk about relevant, I think a Mitchell Trubisky-like career in terms of a backup, where he's going to start somewhere like 14 to 17 games as a backup in the career. When you take a look at the rest of the players, I think he'll have the longest career out of all of these kind of round 4 to 7 QBs that'll go.
Adam?
Yeah, I look at 2 guys who kind of have a reason to be a little pissed off, and Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to pick a pissed off guy, I'm going to pick the one with who seems to have a little more physical tools. So I'll go with Kyle McCord.
I was choosing between Ewers and McCord. I think both of them, like you said, slightly disrespected, not only by the general NFL, but also us in this conversation as we've left them to the final seconds. So you know what? We're part of the problem. But I will say, I want to give a quick shout to Dylan Gabriel. I love every single thing about this guy except for the fact that he's 5'11", and I don't think that number is correct. That is, if that number was 6'2", I think this is a high second round talent. He makes every throw. He runs an offense beautifully. I've just been incredibly impressed by him. If it weren't for the fact that he is 5'10", with cleats on. So if that weren't the case, he would be on there.
Yeah, for Quinn, I don't have a draftable grade on Quinn Ewers.
Not even a draftable grade on Quinn Ewers. Yeah. So the disrespect continues on this show, and I look forward to watching Quinn Ewers try and prove us wrong.
That's why we picked them, because it's not the physical, it's the mental that's going to piss these guys off to turn into the next Brady.
I appreciate you trying to do bulletin board material for them as they get ready for Sundays.